All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our next edition of Nature Hero Talks 2021. And today we'll be talking about birds in Perak and birds in Terengganu. And we very honored and happy that Dr. Chan Kai Sun, I saw his name written, Dr. Chan Kai Sun and Mr. Anwar McAfee, all the way from Terengganu. And today, I think is Dr. Chan's birthday, so wishing you a happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Well, happy birthday, Dr. Chan.
And thanks
Thank you, Anwar.
the time.
Thank you, everybody.
Very special day for you to be presenting here. Thank you so much. And okay, so we'll start. So this program is brought to you by MNS NS Malacca Branch. And we would like to thank them for that. And we are a membership-based organization. So to join across Malaysia as well, you know, like we have Terengganu branch from Anwar is from Terengganu, and Dr. Chan Kai Sun is from Perak. So it's the same across Malaysia. Wherever you are located, you can become members of MNS. And these are the rates per year. So it's relatively affordable, and you can just go to this website, mns.my/join us to fill up the form and make the online payment. Being part of MNS, you're being part of a very strong voice for nature, as we have a network of 14 branches across Malaysia. We have, because we are based from NS Malacca Branch, just want to highlight two important EIAs that are happening right now. One is the incinerator happening in Seremban 2. You can help to, you know, now it's a EIA feedback, public feedback time. You can do that. And also this particular 12 billion ringgit Kololingi International Port, which is right at the river mouth of the Tsungai Lingi. And we are making some progress in getting the community. But you across Malaysia, you know, you have a right to feedback as well. So if you think it's important to preserve this area we have the crocodiles, we have fireflies, we have 30% of the hawksbill turtles landing in this area for West Malaysia. And we have the painted terrapins. So hawksbill and painted terrapins are both critically endangered. And of course, the fishing community also will be considered wiped out, meaning they have to find alternative sources of income if this goes ahead. So please take a few minutes to feedback. I'll give you the link later on. We're doing this program through our Eco Partners online app. And one of the major benefits that you connect with us is that you can win prizes. And later on, Anwar can show you what are the prizes for today. So today we are in March 20th. We'll be looking at going to Perak and Terengganu. And on the 3rd of April, we're going to do Waterbird. It's a special program by Tu. He will be teaching us how to identify waterbirds. And then to complete the series on birds, we will be talking, we'll be going to Sabah and Sarawak. Okay, so keep your calendars open for that. This is our Facebook page and our YouTube. You're welcome to take a snapshot and help us like the page. Thank you. So today, two very special guests, Dr. Chan Kai Sun celebrating his birthday today, and also Anwar McAfee from Perak and from Terengganu branches. So Dr. Chan is a pathologist. He joined MNS Perak in 1999, has been bird coordinator since 2015, and he helps to organize the birding trips for the branches for Perak branch. Anwar McAfee, raised in Canada, he's lived in Terengganu for the last for over 30 years. He's been with MNS for the past 15 years, and he's helped out in various roles from vice chair to secretary and so on. He's one of the organizer for the Kenya Bird and Nature Quest since 2013. and he's also author of many books. The first one, his first ever checklist, The Birds of Terengganu and Birds of University Sultan Zainal Abidin and Birds of Terengganu. He also leads research projects to assess the presence of the critically or is it endangered helmeted hornbill in the state. So I now open the floor to Dr. Chan Kai-sun to start with this sharing, then followed by Anwar. And any questions you have about as you go along, please key into the chat box, or if you're on Facebook, either the Terengganu Facebook or the Negeri Malacca Facebook, you can key in as well. We have our helpers to monitor that as well. All right, thank you. Over to you, Dr. Chan.
Thank you, Woody. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes. Can go to full slide.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Woody, for inviting me to give this talk on behalf of Perak Branch. Let me introduce myself first. I'm a pathologist, medical doctor. I joined MS in 1999 and started birding since then. I have been the bird group coordinator for about since 2015. And for this, I organize bird trips. Let me disclose number one is that although birding comes third for me, so because of this, I may not be very well versed in some of the birds. And if I make any error in this talk, I hope those CFOs can correct me and let me know. And I have not visited all the sites in Perak, of course, so some sites will not be well described. And I'm not affiliated to any tour guide or any company, so there's no conflict of interest as far as I know. To start off, Perak has got 505 species of birds in a publication in 2006. Fast forward 15 years later to now, February this year, eBird has sorry, let me pause for a while. eBird has recorded 580 species of birds in the state of Perak, whereas a compilation by Tojini shows 608 species. But this includes a lot of old records, which is almost impossible to see nowadays. In the state of Perak, we have 9 major bird habitats covering almost all the possible habitats possible for the birds. These habitats can be classified into two types. Those are important bird areas or associated with important bird areas, or not yet important bird areas like these 5 listed here. I'll be talking about all these sites. First, the IBAs in Perak. We have 6 of them. First one is the Bintang Range, IBA number 4. Number 5, Matang Coast, Kuala Gura area. Number 6, Pondok Tanjung, a small area near Bukit Merah. Number 7 is a big, IBA number 7 is a big Bolom Temenggor forest complex. And number 8 is the Kairang Range, very close to Ipoh. The last one is the Central Titiwangsa Range, covering the whole stretch. And there are also 2 areas proposed for IBA. These are Pia Kobu Forest Reserve here and Bagan Datuk Coast here. First, the Bintang Range. In the north, you have the Bintang Hijau Forest Reserve. In the south, there's a Kobu, Mount Kobu there. This range includes Bukit Road, Taiping area, and also 4 or 5 recreational forests, namely Hutan Lipo, Ulu Kanas, Ulu Gua, Terong, and to the southern end, Ulu Licin. And of course, there's Scott Seals in Taiping, somewhere near. For Bukit Road, sorry, let me, something is blocking my screen. Okay, never mind. For Bukit Road, you cannot go up using a 4-wheel drive. And accommodation-wise, you can either stay in those Majlis Pavandra typing bungalows or the nest. Habitat in the lower elevation is the mountain, is the lowland, but higher up is the mountain forest. eBird has got 285 species. This is the first jeep station along Bukit Rao Road at a level of about 1,000 meters. This is probably the junction between lowland forest and above it will be the mountain habitat. This is the second section near Speedy Bungalow. This one goes up, straight up, and when this direction you go up, you can go up to the nest. This is the nest bungalow, good for birding, and a nice retreat to see birds. And you walk up the jeep track to the end of the road. This is Bukit Caulfield, where there's a telecom station. What are the species in the mountain forest? You have the Rufous Brown Flycatcher, known to nest just beside the jeep track. Of course, gray-headed trogon used to be seen very frequent at Speedy. Bright Hawk Eagle, also very frequently seen. And we have a blue ash nesting right in front of Speedy in the past. Brownwood Owl is almost like a sure tick if you stay overnight at the nest. Of course, highland birds like the silver-breasted broadbill and bright striped warbler, previously called white-browed striped warbler. Note that this species is limited to the upper mountain forest, and you don't expect to find this in the lowland forest, or maybe not even in the lower mountain forest. There's one very interesting past record of white-throated rock thrush in Bukit Rao Road, somewhere near the tea garden, just above it. Lower down along the hill is, of course, the lowland forest. You have orange-headed thrush, greenback flycatcher, hooded pita. All three has been coming to the same spot year after year, and so easy to take off. And sometimes you will get the banded broadbill and black and yellow broadbill. Half-throated babbler is a species rather restricted to the northern part of Peninsular Malaysia, and it's also found in Bukit Rao Road as well as some other sites in Perak. Easier access places like Taiping Lake Garden has also a lot of interesting birds. This is the Lake Garden, somewhere opposite the zoo, Taiping Zoo. The species, typical species, long-tailed parakeet, no problem finding them. Oriental pied hornbill, also no problem finding them. Both of them near the garden very frequently. And if you're lucky, you'll find the rhinoceros front hornbill. Milky stock is there all the time, free-flying birds from the zoo. Like birding in other places, you can always get surprises, even in Taiping Lake Garden. I had two there. One is a large green pigeon. I think it came from the hillside, Bukit Rao itself. This is a female. And one even more surprise is a green Imperial Pigeon in a couple of years back. Green Imperial Pigeon. Scots Hill is a private land. You can walk up to a water tank, the road to water tank, or you can drive out, but there's a boom cap, so be careful, you may be locked out if you drive out. It's a very low hill only. It is the place where MNS Perak used to observe bird migration. This is the Scots Hill. You can look towards the north and the Bukit Rao, the birds will come in front. Of course, the autumn migration, you have a lot of black baza and various espiters. The next next group of sites are those in the southern part of Bintang Range. I listed 4 or 5 of them: Ulu Kenas, Ulu Gua, Terong and Sungai Nio, and Ulu Licin in the south. This has got similar bird species. The most well-developed probably is the Ulu Kenas, where you have a public toilet, you have food stores, nice car park, but least birds. I prefer Ulu Gua and Terong for birding. These few places are easy to find: chestnut-neck forktail, rufous back kingfisher has been nesting there in Uruguay. This record from Uruguay many years ago. Rufous collar kingfisher, my first rufous collar probably taken from Uruguay. And I have 2 records of Malaysian hunting kite, also from Uruguay. And very interestingly, 2 records of olive-backed woodpecker, old records, also from Uruguay. So the more recent one that a lot of people will be looking for will be the blue-banded kingfisher. It has been in Terong quite a number of years, and this was a recent record. The other thing most birds we're familiar with will be the fruiting ficus trees. This can be found in Bintang Range. This is in Uruguay. You also find it in Taiping foothills. These are the magnet for birds. Of course, plenty of birds you can find there. Barbets. This is a pair of red-throated barbet, gold-whiskered barbet, blue-ear barbet, and yellow-crowned barbet. Basically, all the lowland barbets. Of course, bubu likes fruits. Very much sought after scaly-breasted bubu, gray-bellied bubu, buff-banded bubu, and even the black-crested bubu can be found in the lowland. Other birds that typically visit the fruiting tree are woodpeckers, crimson-breasted, leaf birds, Asian berry bluebird. The third IBS site is the famous Matang Coast, although it's not that glamorous nowadays because not many people go there. It's claimed to be the best managed mangrove forest in the world. The sites include Kuala Gula here, with Kuala Gula Sanctuary Resort, Perhentian office there, and there's a coastal bun trail around the village in Kuala Gula. And then you have the Matang Mangrove Boardwalk in Kuala Sepetang. And there's an interesting temple near Kuala Gula here, where you can find a few owls and interesting birds. This is the Kuala Gula Sanctuary Resort near the river mouth. This is the bun trail near the Kuala Gula village. One side is the mangrove forest. The other side is the mud flats. This is the Hua Sengkong Temple, where there are a few interesting species. Mangrove boardwalk in Kuala Sepetang for watching mangrove birds. So what are the species? But Life Data Zone has got more than 150 species in the Matang Coast. This side is the mangrove, this side is the bun road. Milky stock. Probably Kuala Gula was declared IBM mainly because of this species, which was critically endangered at one time. This was shot in Kuala Gula, of course. Of course, we also even found the nest of this species near the sanctuary resort years ago. Lesser adjutant near Triton resident species. Migratory shorebirds are not so well seen in Kuala Gula because the mudflats are not well exposed. Mangrove species of birds you expect to see. I see carrier bird, collared kingfisher, greater frameback. Common frameback is a habitat is not so restricted, can be found elsewhere also. So is stockbill, and mangrove whistler, of course, is mostly in mangrove forest, although it is also found elsewhere. The migrant kingfisher is a black-capped kingfisher, almost exclusively in mangrove forest. Kuala Gula even have a record of raleigh kingfisher, which I recorded this a couple of years ago. The other interesting place are Hua Sengkong Temple has a regular sighting of Skunda scops owl. And recently, most of us will have known there's a Eurasian hoopoe stay for quite some time. And that Kuala Gula area generally is also good for finding dollarbird and also Indian roller, now called Indo-Chinese roller. The road main road along Kuala Gula actually has a lot of owls at night. You have spotted owl, bun owl, and buffy fish owl. The other IBA is Pondok Tanjung Forest Reserve, for which I'm not very familiar. It's called Pondok Tanjung Reserve because of this small town near Pondok Tanjung. There is a road travel going from Pondok Tanjung towards the North Selama, and you do birding along this road, you don't need permit. But you go to a forest, you need permit. It's adjacent to Bukit Merah. It is important as an IPA because it is probably the only or the most important peace farm forest found in Perak State. We can't find any elsewhere in Perak, this one forest. However, data for this is lacking. I have only one birding tree inside. This is the forest trail. And what are the species there? Sorry, this is a typo. I don't have a total number of species for Perak Terengganu, but Phuket Malacca has got 67 species. It's important because if the biome restricted species are there, these are the white-bellied woodpecker, red crown barbet. I'm not so sure it's a biome restricted. In Perak, you only find this in Perak Terengganu. Blue-rump parrot is often seen just along the road that I talk about. And gray-headed fish eagle is another biome restricted species. So is the white-chested babbler. I haven't got a picture of the white-chested babbler. There are also old records of black partridge in this place, according to some of my senior birding gurus. I understand there's also a recent record of white-fronted scops owl, quite close along the main road. Next is a big area called Royal Ballroom IBA. This one, the highway from Greek to Jetty crosses this IBA. The north of the highway is called the Royal Ballroom State Park. The south of it is called the Temenggor Forest Reserve. And this place has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is the town of Great. Habitat is mostly lowland, but some part is highland. If you want to stay all night, you can either stay in the Greek town or Bunting Island, where there's a rainforest resort, but it's closed at the moment due to the MCO. This is also the same place, there's a jetty. Where else can you do birding? You can do birding at this place called rest stop called Hentian Banjaran Titiwangsa. And you can of course hire a boat to go up and down the branching lakes and look for birds, mostly hornbills. There's also a watchtower somewhere near the Hentian, and we can go up and look for birds at the eye level. We have seen hornbills as well as eagles there. Highest point of is about 1,004, so it has gone up to montane forest habitat. We all know, yes, Ballroom has got rich biodiversity. This is the jetty complex. You look at it, you know it's very busy because a lot of people visit the lakes. You can take a boat ride to look for hornbills. Boat ride can take you around the lakes, and including this place called Tsungai Papan, and other place where you can land and then look for forest bird as well. I mentioned Hentian Banjaran Titiwangsa. This tree has got plenty of birds early in the morning because of the moth attracted to the light at night. So you see bird here, birding. You can also go to the watchtower, as I mentioned earlier. What are the species there? There are more than 300 species in Royal Ballroom Temenggor, but of course, be careful, there are also elephant. Ballroom Temenggor is well known to have all the 10 species of hornbill in Malaysia. Peninsular Malaysia. You have bushy crested hornbill, red hornbill, reef hornbill, ringed hornbill, and plain pouch hornbill. And then you also have black hornbill number 6, white crown hornbill, oriental pied hornbill, rhinoceros hornbill, and of course, the iconic helmeted hornbill. This picture of the helmeted hornbill was taken at Tsungai Papan area. Other birds in Ballroom Temenggor, the boat ride, almost certain you will see the grey-headed fish eagle, as well as the lesser fish eagle. And actually, dark screen pigeon also fly over the sky, but I didn't have good pictures, so I don't want to show. And of course, there are raptors in the forest. For example, this is the resident race of the oriental honey buzzard. Some of the forests, you can find pin-tailed parrotfinch quite rather readily, much sought after bird. The special place at the Hentian, they have got its own set of birds. Large fruit strike is very common there. Early morning feeding on moth, this one particular, feeding on a praying mantis. Sarantic too come for the moth. And you have the montane birds such as common green magpie, even the black laughing thrush, also a montane bird. Yes, you have got other interesting birds, red-bearded bee-eater. There's a family of black-thigh falcon in there. And from the Banjan, you can look back from the stop, you can look into the valley, and often you will see hornbill without going on the boat ride. We have tried looking for migrating raptors there, but none. Only found migrating bee-eater. The next IBA is close to Ipoh, called the Kledang Range. The north-south highway cuts through this IBA. It includes the Kledang Sayong Forest Reserve, so close to Ipoh, easy to access. There are three recreational forests here. One is the Taman Eko Rimba Kledang, just off the highway. Next one, just not further north, Lata Ulu Cepo. And the third one is a Papan Forest Reserve with a plant nursery there. What do you find in these three places? You have three species of trogon, all near Triton. Scararam trogon, Diaz trogon, Great Nape trogon, and you have quite a number of woodpeckers, including the orange-backed woodpecker, buff-necked woodpecker, maroon woodpecker. They are also buff. Sorry, I mentioned buff rum is actually buff-neck. You also have buff rum as well. I'm not showing the picture. Other species of interest, rufous winged Philantoma, very much sought after, Japanese paradise flycatcher. Both were in Kledang Sayong. Pintail parrotfinch were quite common in Lata Ulu Cepo. We have several records of Malaysian hawk cuckoo in Kledang Sayong. Well-fronted is common in all three places and seen multiple times, and often come quite close to the borders. You also have near Triton species like green Iora, interesting colorful bird, banded kingfisher, rufous collar kingfisher like in Bintang Range, and sometimes Franny, great bearded bee-eater. We have heard great argus there, but we never bother to go up deep in the forest to look for them. And we have seen bushy crested hornbill there too. Next is the Central Titiwangsa Range, IBA. Along this range, one long list of potential for bird watching. I mentioned this: Ulu Kinta, Kilotong, Ulu Kwa Tempurong, Ulu Goro, famous for Rafalesia, and other smaller sites, which hasn't been very well explored. I'll be talking only about two of the places here. These are Kilotong, first one, which is of course limestone cave habitat, easily accessible from Ipoh. Has got 74 species recorded in the past. Probably now there will be more. Typically, you have no problem finding blue rock thrush there, as well as the blue whistling thrush. The third common one is the Java sparrow, and lately even the red whisket has become a regular bird there, almost certain to see. Various species of plaintive cuckoo common there because of lotus flower, lotus plant, and also banded bay cuckoo there. Like all limestones hill, you get this limestone residents, including the Peregrine falcon resident race. This is a nest we found somewhere near the limestone hill. And also we have the black-thigh falconet. Peregrine falcon was the fastest raptor in the air, and black-thigh falconet was the smallest. It's the smallest rather. The other cave is the Gua Tempurong, which is very close to Central Titiwangsa Range. We have long-bill spider hunter, we have spectacled spider hunter, gray-breasted spider hunter, little spider hunter, and yellow-eared spider hunter, for which I haven't photographed there yet. Other birds, recently there's an exciting find of the Asian emerald cuckoo. Banded bay cuckoo, often very vocal there. Black and red broadbill, we have a pair there. And also someone discovered there's a bar eagle owl, which is very easily seen early in the morning, if you reach there early enough, before somebody flush it back into the hiding. The first proposed IBA site is Pia Kobu Forest Reserve, for which I haven't visited yet. It is accessed from Tsungai Siput here, going towards to the central Titiwangsa range. In fact, it's mainly lowland, and the area has got many orang asli villages. I was given to understand that there's a resort at Kuala Mu here, but I haven't been there. So this place is worth exploring in future. Perak Forest is in the north. A checklist by Kim Chai has got 134 species, and checklist by Zario has got slightly less. These are the species: Hornbill, Woodpecker, Bedhawk. All these are all important and lead to proposal as IBA. The other part of this is the Korbu Forest Reserve in the south here. 96 species checklist by Zahario. Similar type of birds as Perak Forest. The other IBA species has been proposed is the what I call the Bagan Datuk coast. Access from Bagan Datuk or Selekor. Habitat, of course, is the coastal mudflat as well as the mangrove forest along the coast. Where to play Jetty Peting Beras Basah, you can take a boat to Sungai Burong, go to the high tide routes here in Rongkok. Or you can drive your own car to Sungai Tiang. The road is a little bad now, so you got to be a bit careful. So this is Jetty Peting Beras Basah. This is the place where the Perak Sultan washed his foot on a landing. And we do birding along the. You look from the sea, this is the jetty. You can see the mud flats all around. Quite easy to see the bird, although they are far away. You can take a boat survey. This is Rongkok. You can go to Sungai Tiang coastline, see the birds. What are the birds? In our survey in 2018, Bagan Datuk, there are 116 species, both mangrove as well as waders. Of course, the classic one, the most well one, is the Northman's green shank. And not two species of godwit. This is the bar-tail, and also Asian dowitcher, and a host of other important birds such as wimbles, Eurasian curlew, two species of sandpipers, ruddy turnstone, where multiple species of terns there. And there are also two records of Chinese eagles along this place. So they are important for birds. Other species, mainly less important, more common. The Chinese pond heron, Jawan pond heron, lesser adjutant is the near Triton resident species. Maybe it's already uplisted, I don't know. We also have white Imperial Pigeon, quite difficult to find elsewhere. And of course, white-bellied sea eagle, every coastline you will find. How about the mangrove birds? There's the golden-bellied Garrigon. There's a little bronze cuckoo. These two species have been found in the same spot in the mangrove forest. And is a known brood host for this cuckoo. So somebody go birding there is going to see the parasitic cuckoo being fed by the Garrigon sooner or later. We also have one interesting bird, the Horsefield's bronze cuckoo. Migratory, but unlike other migratory birds, it comes from the south, Australia, rather than the north. We have white-breasted swallow there, very common. Mangrove forest, of course, you find mangrove flycatcher. Other mangrove species, copper-toothed sunbird, lace woodpecker, of course, cinereous skit. The ex-mining land around Ipoh, there are at least three areas. This yellow one is Maling Nawa. This long one is the Kinta Nature Park. And this blue one, I call it Batu Plaza ex-mining land near this Silver Lake project, this Silver Lake Brand project. Habitat is freshwater wetland, as well as open country, scrubs, and maybe you'll find some forest edges. Common species found there: herons, egrets, cormorants, open bills, pipits, wagtail, bow flat-wings, migratory as well as resident, and petticoats. This is Maling Nawa. To access the wetlands in Maling Nawa, you go off at this junction. This junction is just reach to Tanjung Maning. So these are the few places we see our birds. This is the mines department in Marinawa. This is a view of those habitat in pond. Marinawa is famous for hosting a series of rare migrants over the years. It has got 188 species. 2010, we have the red-necked phalarope. I found it by accident. 2013, the tufted duck came, and then it came also subsequently, I think 2005, and then also recently, so 3 times at least. 2014, we have a northern shoveler. These are all migrants or vagrants. And 2015, my wife and I found this little egret. Unusually, it is a dark moth, which I have never heard of it before. Almost missed, I know see. Other rare migrant, 2016, we have the northern shoveler. And then Dave Burwell in 2017 found the white tip. Same year, a lot of other interesting birds, such as the common ring plover. And glossy ibis came recently, but I didn't manage to photograph. And last year, we have the sharp-tailed sandpiper. Other interesting species which are sorry, wait, somebody is, my computer is hanging, okay. I say. Came down. So he can. Yeah, bank swallow. Others, which is quite difficult to find. Sorry for the interruption, internet problem. Blue as well as Batu Gajah, I mentioned this Kintan Nature Park. This is the Batu Gajah ex-mining land near Silver Lake area. Kintan KMP has got 131 species in 2006, probably has got more now. It's regular. Of course, black pasa always seen there every year, and the wetlands is also attracts the osprey every year. This particular past 2 years, we have added oriented data and even pheasant-tailed jacana. At one stage, there were about 10, 11 jacana in this ex-mining land. The next area I talk about will be the paddy fields near Ulu Dedap and Langkap. This is Ulu Dedap, and this is the Falcon paddy field, hosts a lot of migrant raptors. This is Langkap and the adjacent tree chart. And the paddy field there, paddy field there hosts these birds, the Asian openbill, black-winged kite, family kite, which these are all resident except for the openbill. And we also have migrant raptors such as the black kite, greater spotted eagle, and steppe eagle. The last habitat is the parks and garden. In Perak, you have various parks and gardens, like every other places. You have Royal Golf Club. We have Sultan Abdul Aziz Recreational Park, fondly called the Polo Ground. DR is Siniwasan Park, Gunung Lang, and everybody else backyard or wooded areas. What are the species? Common species, I think you probably have seen. Sunbirds, brown-throated, what do you call that, olive-backed sunbird. white-throated kingfisher, copper-spit barbet, pink-necked pigeon, and this crested cockshots is going into the urban areas everywhere, including Ipoh. This one was from Ipoh. We have it in Taiping, I believe in KL, and even Singapore now they are nesting. And puffy fish also. If you are lucky, you may find a blue-winged pitta coming into the garden. This one was caught in the outskirts of Ipoh. And there was also even a record of Malayan night heron in Deer Park, shot by one photographer. In summary, Perak has got all major avian habitats represented. He has got a good mix of common and uncommon species of birds, and most places are readily accessible. However, we don't have many good places to do mounting bird, just only Bukit Arut. Coastal mafia in Perak hasn't been much explored, so we probably need more exploration. I would like to thank a few people for this talk. Lim Kim Chai, Tahari Zulkifli, and Toh Jin. All these people have provided data, information, and advice, and also bird lists. And also I want to thank all my birding friends and all those friends whom I met during my birding trips. Their companion and their company makes my life so much enjoyable. Thank you. I'm sorry for the interruption of my internet.
No problem.
Back to you, Udit.
Thank you, Dr. Chan.
Do I unshare? I stop share.
Stop, yes, please. Thank you. And now we move on to Anwar. Over to you, Anwar. Thank you. So from Perak, we're going to Terengganu. Thank you.
40 minutes. Yeah, 30分鐘講40分鐘啦。不過佢講係30分鐘。
Okay, I unmuted. All right, thanks very much, Dr. Chan, for that interesting talk, very detailed talk, very thorough talk. And I thought of this relationship, big brother, little brother. Your side of the country is the big brother for bird watching and places to go. And in Tringanu, we have not explored the state as much as it has been explored on the west coast. So let me first make sure. Am I sharing the screen already?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll make it like a full screen for everyone now, is it? Okay, all right, so I'm going to talk for a little bit here about birding in Tringanu and the places that we can go for bird watching in Tringanu. And I start with this photograph here of a great hornbill. And the interesting thing about this photograph, and I'll probably mention a little bit later, is this nest that we're looking at, the nest in this tree of this great hornbill, is the first nest for Malaysia recorded of a great hornbill. And this is in Tringanu, in the area of Batu Rakit, Tringanu, where the villages are. So we'll look at my short talk about places that we can go bird watching in Tringanu. We're not as rich as Perak in terms of IBAs. In fact, we only have one official IBA, and that is Taman Negara Tringanu, which is Taman Negara, the one that we all know in Pahang, Kelantan, and Tringanu. So the Tringanu portion is Taman Negara Tringanu IBA. But MNS Terengganu has two proposals on the board for other locations in the state. And I want to show you just this one map to start, so that you can keep this in mind as we go around the state of Terengganu. Of course, we're located on the east coast, and we have different types of habitat. We have islands for bird watching. We have wetlands in the coastal region for bird watching. The villages and rural areas are quite extensive throughout the state of Terengganu. And then where you look to the west of the state of Terengganu, you see that there are no roads. That is all the forested area. So we have quite a bit of healthy forest inside Terengganu as well for bird watching. And at the moment, our official checklist for the state of Terengganu stands at 463 species. And this is based on really very few reports, studies. Not much has been done in Terengganu as far as birds. It's only within the last maybe 10, 15 years that there have been efforts to really compile a statewide list. And that list is growing all the time as more and more people are coming, more and more people are visiting and doing birding and recording their sightings. So if you look at the map, I have red dots in place for all the locations that have easy public access for bird watching. And if we're talking about the islands, there are many islands throughout. There are Pulau Perhentian in the north, all the way down to Tengol in the south. But I put dots on two only, Pulau Perhentian and Pulau Kapas. Pulau Kapas because it's very easy access. Pulau Perhentian because it has healthy forest and a wide range of accommodation. For wetland bird watching or coastal bird watching, we have Skyu wetlands. There's only one or two easy to access areas there. If you go further south, Bukit Labuhan and Bukit Bau, those are both forested areas. Hijau is a coastal area. And inland, Tasik, Kenyir, Skyu, Chamorong, Bumbung Raja, these, and at the North Lata, Tambaka, these are all forest reserves that have easy public access. And for all of these places, to visit all of these places, there is no entrance fee, there is no park that exists or any blockage to get in. These are all just open access areas that we can go to birding. I include Kuala Ko in Kelantan because it also has very easy access. It is just actually if you drive, it's probably a 30-kilometer drive from the border of Terengganu to reach Kuala Ko, Taman Negara. But as the bird flies, Kuala Ko is just a few kilometers outside of the boundary of the state of Terengganu. So it's another good birding area in the state. So we'll go through the islands very quickly. We have Perhentian in the north, and Perhentian is actually two islands, Perhentian Besar, Perhentian Kecil, and then some other smaller islets around that area. It is a 40-minute boat ride from Kuala Besut, and the boat ride is maybe, it changes every year. I would say it's in the range of maybe 60 to 80 ringgit per person for a return trip. You definitely would not want to go to Perhentian Island for just a day because of the logistics of getting over there. You would want to go for a few days. And it's probably not a place that you would be happy just to do bird watching 100%. You would probably mix it with other water activities as well. Redang is also a 40-minute boat ride from Merang. And if you were to take it from Kuala Terengganu, from the river mouth of Kuala Terengganu, it's slightly further, a 90-minute boat ride. The cost is approximately the same as getting to Perhentian. And at Redang, there is a host of accommodation from very high-end accommodation to simple chalets. There's also a fishing village on the island. Bidong Island is opposite Merang in Terengganu. This is an uninhabited island. The Vietnamese refugee camp was there. You can easily do a day trip, but in terms of bird life, it's actually quite poor. There is not a lot of diversity and there are not a lot of numbers on the island itself. And we are going on a regular basis, MNS Terengganu, to continue to do surveys. We feel we have not found everything that is there on the island, but it is not a birding hotspot by any means. Redang is a proposed IBA because of the black-naped tern population. The size of the colony that breeds on Redang Island, as studied by Dr. Hamza from UMT, also our MNS member, is sizable enough in terms of the percentage of population that it satisfies the requirements to be an IBA. So MNS Terengganu is proposing Redang. If we come closer to Kuala Terengganu, Kapas Island is only 10 minutes from the coastline. So I like Kapas if you want to get a quick feel of an island and do a little bit of birding. Kapas Island is probably the easiest for a day trip because the cost of getting over is maybe 30 to 50 ringgit return, and it's only a 10-minute boat ride. And on all of these islands, you'll get, during the breeding season, the black-necked terns will be easy to see. I'll show you a few of the other pictures. Tengol Island is an island that is quite far from the shore. It involves logistics to get there, but and it's in deeper water. And we believe that there are colonies of roseate terns nesting there, although I have not visited myself, but we have seen the photographs. So these are the islands that we have. And then on all of these islands, what you will see for sure are black-naped terns when they're nesting. You'll have the reef egrets there, walking and staying around the sandy and rocky coasts. And usually on all of the islands, you will see, the larger islands anyways, you'll see the pied imperial pigeons. These will be some of the common things that you can see on the islands. Now, if we look at what Tringanu has to offer in terms of coast and wetlands, we have a 244-kilometer sandy coastline, very different from the West Coast, which is very tidal and very muddy, very good for migrating shorebirds. We, on the East Coast during migratory season, come October, November, December, we have very stormy weather, very unsettled, cloudy weather with lots of rain. And our shoreline, the whole way down, is coarse sand. And it's also a very quick drop off to the sea. So there are not any flat areas where we have at low tide, lots of exposed sand. So along the coast, we don't see a lot in the way of shorebirds. Yes, the shorebirds are here in small numbers, but it's a great effort to find them and observe them. There is a big difference between the diversity and the activity on the West Coast compared to the East Coast estuaries I've been to. The one place that has okay public access, if you wanted to explore the coastline a bit and the wetlands, would be the Skyu State Park. It's a new Tringanu State Park with a boardwalk set up to walk through. You don't get to the coastline, you actually get to an inland river route. And on the other side of that, there is more sand and then the coastline. So this type of area, if you really want to explore the coastline, you need to go out in a four-wheel drive or do a lot of walking from where the road ends. Another coast and wetland area you can do birding is along our rivers and in the estuaries. Okay, there's a little bit more bird diversity there. And of course, throughout the state, when you find ponds or agricultural areas, when they are wet, they will have a host of birds around them. We have a picture here of the Indian roller, which is quite common up and down the coast of Tringanu, but it's only found on the coastline. I have never seen it even a few kilometers inland. So around here, it's strictly coastal, but it is very easy to find. Some other of the common birds you'll see as you go up and down the coast and you stop in wet areas or grassy areas, is you'll find the herons, the purple heron and the gray heron are quite common. Of course, lapwings are very easy to see, and we have the migratory lapwings as well, but in very small numbers. Red wattled lapwing is fairly easy to see in grassy areas, and then a host of crapes if you get into proper wetland areas. That's easy to see as well with a bit of patience. But again, we don't have any official park that is a wetland area that you can go to and see these birds. This is more opportunistic in the public areas. And sandy coastline, so you'll have sanderlings and some plovers, never in huge numbers and never great diversity, but they're there. This is taken not far from my home in Sabrantak here along the coast. This is the Tringanu River Estuary. This is also not far from my home. So this is a photograph of an islet, of which there are many in the Tringanu River Estuary. And they become a roosting site for the migratory birds that are feeding in the fields, the paddy fields around the Kuala Tringanu area. So the birds will all come in and roost at night. And I just want to, okay. When in this particular estuary, I go out and do counts. So every few weeks I go, and in January 14th, of course, we have little egrets. We have lots of cattle egrets and herons going in. January 14th, we had 187 cattle egrets that came into roost in this small little patch here, amongst many other different types of birds. And along the coast as well, if the conditions are right, if the area is quiet enough, you will have the little terns that will nest. And they are kind of finicky because they don't always nest in the exact same area. Their colony seems to move every year a little bit, or the numbers go up and down. This is a combination of photographs. The bottom right photograph is from a colony close to the Tringanu River estuary from several years ago, which is now empty, not used anymore. And the birds have moved up the coast about 10 kilometers to a little ocean sea barrier, which is covered in sand at the top. So it's offshore. It's a secure area in that sense. And the terns nest there. So the common terns that you will get in Tringanu, if you go to the islands, it'll be the black-naped terns. You can also find some roseate terns and bridled terns. And then these little tern colonies show up along the coast. For these little terns, we have tagged them in past years, but we don't have any results. But we assume that after the breeding season, because they disappear. Before breeding season, they're not found around. After breeding season, they're not found in the area. So we assume they move off to Australia, the northern shore of Australia. But we don't have any evidence for that yet, or proof, but that's our guess. And I want to try and show a short video of that little tern colony, the latest one that we took last year. We expect them to come back in May. 1 week before, there won't be any terns at all. And then suddenly in May, the whole colony shows up and they start breeding right away. So most of these terns, they'll lay 2 eggs, sometimes 3 eggs, and there's not a lot of quite safe. No cats or anything in that area. And before I go on to the next area of villages and rural areas, we're still on the coast and the islands. I did want to mention, out of all the islands, I only really talked mostly about Kapas Island because it's so easy to get to, and Perhentian Island. Perhentian Island also has another interesting feature. It has the Nicobar pigeon, and that Nicobar pigeon is there with some reliability in past years, right? So it's also an area I would recommend if you were really interested in island birds. Perhentian is a good place to do birding, and also Kapas is not bad. It doesn't have everything, but it's Kapas. The reason I like it is it's a day trip island, very easy access. And now let's talk about the villages and rural areas in Tringanu, which is just about everywhere out of the big cities, Kuala Terengganu and places like that. So in these villages, you'll have lots of garden birds can be found. You have people that have orchards that have been around for over a century. So you'll have lots of old growth orchard areas. It looks like good forest and it has forest birds, but it's really just orchards. You have secondary forest areas, and also you have wetlands in where the farmers are. And this is one of my favorite areas. If we're looking out towards the sea now, so just beyond the hills you see in the distance, beyond that is the South China Sea, and right behind this mosque in this village are hills. The hills are only 200 meters high at the most, but they're completely forested in a mixture of secondary forest and what I call old growth orchards. And it's in here you can get good introduction to some forest species. and you walk along a tarred road. It's very safe. This is where, in these hills, this is where the first nesting record of the Malaysian, or the great hornbill in Malaysia was. It was nesting in a durian tree. You can see up to 20 individuals at times out in these hills. This is a couple here, the male on the right and the female on the left, and their offspring, the juvenile, was just over in the next tree, and they were moving together from tree to tree, feeding. Oriental pied hornbills are also very common in these hills. Of course, but we have a substantial amount of land around the university, including a wetland area. So it is quite attractive for many species. We have over 100 species recorded just on our campus. And some of the birds that are maybe harder to see elsewhere, the plain-backed sparrow is very common on our campus. I've seen flocks of over 50 of them in the casuarina trees. I don't see them every day, but they are around on campus. I don't see them off campus on the coastal areas so much. They seem to have found a safe haven on our campus, which is just outside of Kuala Terengganu. And also, in the past, we had a great cormorant that came and stayed in our lake for one whole winter season. So there are some rare things to be found. And I'm sure there are many other rare things to be found that haven't been found because there aren't that many people out bird watching in Terengganu. And the last general area I want to talk about is the forests in Tringanu. This is probably my favorite place to go birding. I find it relaxing to go out into the forests. On the map that I showed you at the beginning, these locations are mentioned. The reason I mention it is it's a forest which looks much like the forest in the photograph here, but it has public access. So there is a public access to that area. You have permission to go in to the front part of the forest reserve, and you can do your bird watching there. Though it's quite far from my home, it's in the north of the state, so I don't go there very often. The next is Skyu Waterfall, which is a very busy place on the weekend. Lots of people go because of the waterfall and the river for picnics, but it is also a very good birding area. Probably not so good on the weekends when there are many people there, but it's public access, and it's just outside of Kuala Brang, which is inland from Kuala Terengganu a little bit. Bukit Bau is the coastal tip of a forest reserve, of a large forest reserve, and the coastal tip is protected. It's on some steep hills, and there is telecommunication towers up there with a paved road to go up through the forest. That is in Dumun, about an hour's drive south of Kuala Terengganu. Bukit Bau is good for forest birds, and also it's very easy access. The only thing is, on the weekends, it's a very popular place for people jogging and cycling up and down the trail. The peace and quiet you need to do bird watching. But on other days, it's a very nice, safe walk. Chamorong and Bumung Raja are in the south and the interior. Very good forest. Again, on the interior of Terengganu, it's good forest all the way up and down. This is Chamorong has a very nice waterfall. It's another public access area to go in. And my favorite place to go bird watching in forested areas in Terengganu is Tasik Kenyir. Tasik Kenyir is a very large man-made lake, but it's surrounded by a healthy forest. It is the second proposed IBA for the state of Terengganu. So this is MNS is proposing two this year, Pulau Redang Archipelago, and also Tasik Kenyir as a whole. The area of Tasik Kenyir, we have done a bird survey. We've compiled from many sources, and I just need to check it for you. I can't see the bottom of my screen if I added it or not, but we have just less than 300, I think 296 species of birds recorded in Tasik Kenyir itself. And for the state of Terengganu, if I didn't mention at the beginning, we have 463 species that we've recorded for all of Tringanu. Part of Tasik Kenyir has already been gazetted. So we have Taman Negara Terengganu, which is an IBA. That is Taman Negara proper. That is the southern end of Tasik Kenyir. You need permission from Perhilatan to get into that area. It's a one hour at least boat ride to get across the lake, and it will cost you in the range of 500 to 600 ringgit to get across the lake, because you need to rent a boat, and the boat will handle 8 people, but you need to rent the boat for that price, about 500 to 600. Of course, admission to Taman Negara is not very much, and there are some trails in there, but for me, the effort to get all the way to the other side is too great, because you can get really good birding without traveling across the lake. There is a road that goes from Kuala Terengganu right across Tringanu to Felda Aring and Guamusang, and it runs right on the north side of Tasik Kenyir. So this is a great access without getting a boat. Follow that road. I'll show you a map in a second. We have Kenyir State Park along that road, 30,000 hectares, which is fully protected, but it's just been protected. So there are no network of trails or public access into that Kenyir State Park yet. The Kenyir State Park, its #1 priority is conservation. And so they protected the area. They've stopped all logging in the area. And the next step then is to identify key areas that could have great potential for ecotourism and bird watching. So here is a little map. If we look at the right-hand side, that yellow road going to Kuala Terengganu, so you take that, that's the main road to come out to Tasik Kenyir. And the main point of starting anywhere at Tasik Kenyir is Gawi Jetty. That's where you can get a boat to go anywhere in the lake. That is where there is accommodation coming up in the very near future. That is where food is available. So that's a good resting point at Gawi Jetty there. If you follow Route 185 further along, it cuts across the forest in Terengganu, and it comes out the other side in Kelantan. So you can take that road right across into Kelantan, although at the moment, the road is closed because of a landslide. But you can, from Gawi, you can get at least 60 kilometers across before you come to the landslide. But the road I want to talk about is the red road on the left, which I just call the bird watching site. That road is called Tsungai Buai, and University of Malaysia Terengganu has a research center there. My university has a recreation area there. We have Rafalesia there, and we have most of the forest birds. And the road is it's a dead end road, so there's no through traffic, so it is relatively quiet. It's a good area to walk. There are lots of places to park your car safely and then walk up and down this forest. And there's a lot of good forest birds to see. The photographs on the right are taken along this road, as are many of the, I'm going to show you, they're taken right along this road. So Tasik Kenyir itself, 260 square kilometers, the lake, and then the forest reserves all around it. We have 296 species of birds recorded there, and we have 9 species of hornbills. And the same 9 species you have in Perak, we are missing the plain-pouched hornbill, but we have the others, and it's very easy to see. So these photographs taken along that road just for a morning walk, the rhinoceros hornbill, bushy-crested hornbill, black hornbill, they're all very easy to see. The white-crowned hornbill, oriental pied hornbills are nesting in the area and seen and heard regularly there. And of course, helmeted hornbill is in that area along that simple road, but just about anywhere you go in Tasik Kenyir, you may be lucky enough to hear or see it. The photograph of this helmeted hornbill was taken just a few days ago at Kenyir. And it was taken near this area. So the small road is not through traffic, but the main road that goes all the way across to Kelantan. This is the view from the main road, looking down at the lake. And here we have what I call the magic tree. It's in fruit right now. And yesterday morning, we have 5 different species of hornbills in that tree at the same time, including the critically helmeted hornbill. This is a hornbill nesting at Gaui area. This is from a few years ago, right? If people have not seen the interesting nesting ways of hornbills, they nest in tree cavities, natural cavities, and the male needs to bring the food to the female plus all the young inside. Nesting usually takes at least a few months, even longer for the larger species. And birds are very secretive about their nesting area. This one was in an easy to see location, but the bird won't come if there are people around. So when I recorded this video camera, it was actually in a resort. I set up my camera underneath the resort on stilts across the road from this, and then left the area and came back half an hour later to get the recording. Otherwise, the bird won't come to the nest. Of course, in the forest, all along that road, you'll get these very colorful bulbuls, plus many others that you can see regularly. And because it's a small, narrow road with forest on either side, I mean, you're right up close to the birds in many cases. And of course, the forest sunbirds are also easy to see, especially when you can find some tree that is in flower or fruit. And the barbets are also all around, lots of barbets, lots of different babblers to see and hear. These are difficult birds actually to photograph unless you've got a magic pole like a fruiting fig. And the fruiting figs along the road are easy to locate at the eye level, nothing too high. Bee eaters, the pin-tailed parrot finch is available out there, and a variety of flycatchers as well. These are all taken along those roads at Kinnear. And if you're just starting in bird watching, I think the bigger birds are the more attractive feature because they're easier to see. They usually stay in view a lot longer. Either they're standing perched or they're flying, but they're not flying very quickly as opposed to the very small birds that might perch in one area for a few seconds only. So the common birds of prey out by Kinnear, gray-headed fish eagle, lesser fish eagle when you're out over the water. Closer to land, the changeable hawk eagle, both morphs, rufous-bellied eagle, crested serpent eagle, Blythe's hawk eagle. Wallace hawk eagle is out there. You can see it every now and then. The oriental honey buzzard, the resident species of oriental honey buzzard. And on the right, I have two of the migratory birds of prey that show up at Tasik Kinnear. We do have the resident peregrine falcon recorded at Kinnear, but I have not seen it in all my times going out, although it has been recorded there. What I see more often than not is the migratory peregrine falcon. It's here in Kuala Terengganu on the buildings at my university, but also when you get deep into the forest at the lake, it's there. Every year you can find a few perched on the dead stumps that crop up, and then osprey are there as well. Throughout the migratory season, we'll have osprey at the lake Tasik Kinnear. And I want to show you this Amur falcon. This is a rarity. We do have some rarities in Tringanu that you can see. This Amur falcon was just outside of Kuala Terengganu, and it stayed in this area for approximately 2 weeks from the time I first sighted it to the time it moved on. It's a female Amur falcon. So there are rare species that show up here in Tringanu. We've also had the black-headed bunting that was found at Kinnear a month or 2 months ago, just before the last MCO. Chinese blackbird, a new record for the country, was here on the East Coast. And the great cormorant I mentioned at the university that spent one whole winter season here in Tringanu. So there are some rarities that show up as well. We go back to the forest and you have the flower peckers, you have the white. And I have another video. This is along that same road at Kinnear. So the monarchs, when they're nesting, beautiful nests. If they're nesting in the open a little bit, they're easy to see without disturbing them from a distance. So this is right at the road edge. This bird, we just set up the camera a distance away, turned on the recording and left the area. And then came back about half an hour later. And in that half an hour, we get some good images like this without disturbing the bird. But in addition to birding, when you're out at Kinnear, there are lots of other things to see. We have 6 primates that you can find, not necessarily with ease. Most of them are with ease. The slow loris is not easy to see. You have to go out specifically at night to see it. And the white-thighed langur is probably the hardest to see. It seems to be the most skittish most of the time of the primates. The white-handed gibbon you can hear throughout the forest almost every time you visit Kinnear, although it's not that easy to see, but you can see it occasionally. And the real common ones would be the dusky langur, the long-tailed macaque, and pig-tailed macaque that don't seem to be too scared of people. But you can see 6 primates walking along that simple road. In addition to the primates, binturong are out there. This is, the binturong is at eye level in a fruiting tree right along that simple road. The leopard cat is along that same road. And then these elephants are out in the area quite regularly. I don't see them that often, but I see their footprints, their droppings every single time I'm out at Kinnear. I have had the great fortune of seeing them feeding in areas of the forest, and I have seen them cross the road. This is a family of them crossing the road. And of course we have Rafalesia. Again, along that simple, small road from Gawi, you have Rafalesia, which is not too difficult to get to. And if you go out to Kinnear at night, you can get the nocturnal birds. There's the nightjars, the owls. I don't have a great collection of them, but there are other things I like to photograph, like the moon and the Milky Way. And the early part of the year, Kinnear has very clear skies for night photography as well. So if we look at Terengganu overall here, there are islands that you can go to for bird watching. The whole coastline is available and wetlands along the coast, and of course wetlands available in agricultural areas. The villages and rural areas throughout the state have the common garden birds. And because these villages and rural areas, they have lots of old growth orchards and sections of secondary forest, you can get forest birds there too. And of course the forest, the interior of the state is good for forest. My favorite spot is Tasik Kinnear just because the access is so easy. You can take a boat and spend a lot of money to get into Taman Negara, and there are trails there, but I think you will see a lot more by staying on the roads that I mentioned on the north side of Tasik Kinnear. It won't cost you a single cent, and then you can get back to Gawi, which has places to eat and rest and recharge. So overall, Terengganu has a lot to offer, but there's a lot that still needs to be discovered. And just to show you where this information comes from, there's a book I wrote a few years ago called The Birds of Terengganu, Burung-burung di Negeri Terengganu. It's a bilingual guide in Bahasa Malaysia and English. I show you the same locations I mentioned to you today in the book, and it's published by Penerbit University Sultan Zainal Abidin and Yayasan Diraja Sultan Mizan. And it's only 35 ringgit for a start, for a way to introduce someone to birding or to introduce someone to birding in Terengganu. So I hope you found that informative, and I have to see how I can stop sharing. Have I stopped sharing successfully?
Yes, you have. Thank you so much.
That's important for me.
Yeah.
I can show you, there is the book that I was showing you on the screen just now.
Okay, so this is the prize.
This is the prize that we'll give away. All right, lucky winners.
Lucky 3 winners. So everybody get ready. That the quiz is actually open in the app itself, so you can go there and try your knowledge or whatever you remember from the talk. Thank you so much, Anwar, for this very detailed briefing of the areas to bird in Terengganu. So you have only 1 IBA, but 2 more are being proposed. And the number of species also quite high, 463 species. And likewise in Perak has 6 IBAs. They have over, because of the mountain range, so the terrain is different, okay? So now the quiz is open. The prize has already been shown to you. Can you still hear me? Hello? Hi, sorry, got cut off just now. So we open to question now. Adrian, over to you. Thank you. And we come back in 10 minutes to wrap up and get the winners out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ruti. Good afternoon. My name is Adrian and I'm in charge in. So there are some questions for Dr. Anwar. For the first question, are migratory lapwings same species as local or different?
Okay.
Are migratory?
You want me to answer that question now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
we have the red wattle lapwing, which is the local lapwing here. And then there's the gray-headed lapwing is the one that migrates in. So it's only found occasionally here in Tringanu. I think on the West Coast, you can find it a little bit easier than you can here on the East Coast. But the one that you will find in grassy fields throughout the year in Tringanu is the red wattled lapwing, the photo I showed you. And then there's a gray-headed lapwing, slightly larger, that comes during the migratory season. The migratory season for us on the East Coast and the West Coast about the same, starting, let's say in September, you start to really see some numbers of different birds coming in all the way up to, let's say, April. And after April, you don't see so many, they've gone back. But, you know, you can get migrants coming up as you know, even in August, there'll be some migrants that show up earlier, but the big batches, you know, start looking around September, October. That's when you start to really notice some different birds coming in, and then they're gone by, let's say, April, roughly.
Okay, thank you. And another question from participant. Why are there such low population of shorebirds? Is it because of not enough of food or any else?
Yeah, I think if we talk about the East Coast, we do have some diversity of shorebirds, but we don't have great numbers like you do on the West Coast. And my own gut feeling, it's only a gut feeling, right? I don't really have all the evidence and studies, but just what I've thought is basically our soil here on the East Coast is nutrient poor. It is just coarse, sandy soil. It is not mud flats rich with nutrients for the birds to feed and gain energy before they continue on their migration. That's one. And then the other contributing factor to the lower numbers is the fact that the weather is less favorable for migration during the monsoon season. So when these birds are starting to move from the north to the south, the East Coast has become very stormy. There is not a lot of sun. The seas are rough, the winds are strong, and the rain is unpredictable. And so that probably contributes to birds historically choosing the West Coast as better geography for migration. Not to say we don't have any, we do, but we have small numbers. And when you have small numbers spread out over hundreds of kilometers, you don't have many sightings or they're not bunched up in an area. But I will tell you, just migrating raptors, we do have on the East Coast. You can see one or two individuals if you're looking out for them on a regular basis. But one day I saw hundreds of oriental honey buzzards all packed together in one kettle, moving very rapidly south. They came right down over my campus and then spiraled up and went further south. And that was after 7 days and nights of rain. So they had bunched up somewhere because of the bad weather. And this 8th day was high pressure, very clear skies. At around 11 o'clock, a whole flock came through. So it is there. I don't know if I showed a photo of the gray-faced buzzard, but we have gray-faced buzzards along the coast, and the peregrine falcon, which migrates. So we do have migration, just not the same numbers that you'll get on the West Coast.
Yeah, thanks. And for the next question, is great hornbills nest in durian trees? Question from the participant.
Okay, that's a good question. Not only do Malaysians like durian, but apparently hornbills like durian. Yes, the great hornbill photo I showed, that was of a durian tree. And the reason they would choose the durian trees in that area is because that is an old growth orchard. So in the villages here, you have people that have been planting durian trees, and they're living to be over 100 years. They're very large trees. It looks like a healthy forest from the distance. And so the largest trees are what are needed by large hornbills to breed. And in the case of the forest, it probably won't be a durian tree. It will be another species of tree. But in the village where we have great hornbills nesting, the largest, oldest trees are the durian trees. So I have seen 2 different durian trees being used as nests by the great hornbill.
And for the next question, how do female hornbill get out of nest?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting, because when everyone looks at it, you see such a small hole. What actually happens is the hole is slightly larger. It's not a big hole usually, it's just slightly larger than what you see. And the perimeter of that has been plastered over with things like mud and chewed up bark and some other waste and things. And the female will seal it by patting the sides. I've seen them with their bill, patting the sides to build this, you could call it a cement. And when it's new, it looks different from the bark in terms of color and in terms of texture. But after being there for just a few weeks with the humidity and the rain and everything, that perimeter that has been cemented in looks just like bark, and you wouldn't know it. And so actually to get in and out, it's not possible when it's cemented shut, but they break it open when they're ready to leave the nest. And it's still not a big hole, it's still a very tight squeeze, but you have to remember, when we look at a big bird, a lot of that is feathers. And when it comes right down to it, the flesh and the bones, it doesn't take up as much space as when you see the full bird, because it's got feathers and it can fluff them out.
Thank you, Dr. Anwar. And another question from the participant is,
Yeah.
is Rafalesia
all of them having like that, what? Rainy season. Doing strength 3 cat.
Continue.
Is Rafalesia damaged recently near Gawi?
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, in that area, there's one small area that was damaged recently that MNS brought to the attention of the public. We're still trying to work out why that happened, why there were road works done in the area where it was known to have Rafalesia. We've tried to engage with the parties and do our own research on it. And it is a great loss. It's a small area that was cleared. It's a great loss, number one, but MNS, our hope is not to blame anyone. Our aim is to find out what was the communication gap there that caused this destruction to happen, because we don't want it to happen elsewhere. And so we are never here to point fingers and blame and say, you know, how could you do this? It doesn't make sense. And that we want to meet and communicate with the parties, because for those of you listening, you have to look at all the parties involved. No one wants to see this damage happen. The state government doesn't want to see it happen. MNS doesn't want to see it happen. The universities don't want to see it. Katanga that runs the area. No one wants to see it happen. Somehow it happened. So there is a communication gap somewhere, and we need to identify that so that similar things don't happen. All right. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's inexcusable, but let's try and find out the cause of that to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And for the last question from Wilbur Go, if I want to bird in Kenyir, which town is the best to stay in? I want to be near the site and don't need to be a large town for choices of food, etc.
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question, because I think Kenyir has great potential as a birding site. I mean, yeah, there are other things. The night sky is beautiful. There are plants and there are other animals to see. But for birding, it's great and it's relatively easy. The only thing we're lacking there is accommodation at the area. So if you wanted to go birding on the other side of the lake and you wanted to have your own accommodation with you, you can rent houseboats. If you have a large enough party to cover the cost of the houseboat, then you can move to Tamanagara with your own food, your own accommodation, and have that with you and get to remote areas in the lake. But as I mentioned, I think the road is the best, the most stable area for birding. So the nearest town is Kuala Berang. And Kuala Berang is a medium-sized town. You'll be able to find accommodation there or homestays, but you're still going to be a good half-an-hour drive before you get to Gawi. And then everything is just a few minutes after Gawi. So if you stay at Kuala Berang, you're 30 minutes from Gawi. If you stay in Kuala Terengganu, you're 1 hour from Gawi. And if you stay in Kuala Terengganu, you have more facilities available. Maybe better places to stay, more choices for food. There are some homestays that are very close to Gawi, but they're not well advertised, and I don't have any specific number to call. And there was a resort there before, Lake Kenyir Resort and Spa. It closed several years ago, and that was the only main accommodation at the site. But there are some new simple hotels coming up that are expected to be ready later this year. And once those hotels are ready, then you have accommodation right on the site and food available right on the site. You can contact Katenga. They have a small lodge called Lawat Lodge with only a very few rooms. So it's not always available. And that is right at the beginning of that Tsungai Buai Road I showed you, where I took most of the photographs.
Thank you. And another question from FB Live from Puvanesuri. Hello, Dr. Anwar. Have you undertaken any surveys at the Skyu Wetlands?
Yes, with MNS, it was at least 10 years ago, if not a little more, we did some intensive bird surveys of all of Skyu. So Skyu Wetlands and all of the area of Skyu, some of the forest reserves, the coastal areas. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a little over 170 species of birds. And the state is very concerned about protecting Skyu Wetlands, but as far as a bird watcher goes, I would say there is no one area that you could say to a bird watcher, oh, go there and you'll have a good day of bird watching, because things are so spread out in Skyu. There are very interesting birds like the Malaysian Plover there, not recorded by me, but recorded by other birders there. It's on the coast, and the coast doesn't, the actual coast doesn't have a road in many areas. So it was, when we did the survey with WWF, it was a 4-wheel drive on the sand for many kilometers and walking for many kilometers as well. And then a little bit inland in the swampier areas and the rivers that flow inland, we used to have quite regularly lesser adjutants. And lesser adjutants are not easy to find on the East Coast, but they were there in the past. And some of that area has been drained and converted to oil palm plantations, so they're no longer around in those areas. So Skyu has some great potential, some very interesting species are there, but the effort, I think, is challenging to see a lot in one time. But we have, you can check MNS, it's actually a WWF publication at least 10 years ago for a bird survey for Situ.
Another question from the participant. May I know the equipment for the beautiful bird video you have shown?
Okay, the videos are done now. I've got a few. You believe me or not? This is one of the pieces of equipment. So for the terns, of course, I have to be clear. It is not a great policy to go out and do lots of videos of nesting and things. It can be very disruptive. When I did the tern video, I was on the tern site for a survey with MNS. We were recording the number of eggs and the number of young chicks on the islands. We keep track of the population. So when we start from one end of the survey site, we walk all the way to the other and back. And what I did is when I found a small area with an egg and a young chick, I stuck this phone in the sand and hit record and walked away. And we did our survey down and up the other side. And then I came and I took the phone back again. So that's how I got that. So some modern technology, if you leave it and you walk away, you can probably get some good things. I would say most people have the opportunity to do this around their house if they find they have a sunbird nesting in one of their potted plants out by their front door or their front yard. That's a very common garden bird with a very interesting hanging nest and a hole. The bird, of course, won't want to go near the nest if you're poking around and looking at it, but if you can set up your phone on a stand and put it on record and then leave it for half an hour or so, the bird is bound to come back and you might get some nice video without disturbing the bird. For the others, I do use a digital camera. Okay, I use the digital camera and I use a large lens and a tripod, and I set it all up from a distance. And while you're there, of course, the bird will probably not visit the nest, but I set it up on record and then I walk away from the area. The only way really to have the bird come back is to walk away. Now, I'm not going out looking for these. That monarch, it's nesting right at the edge of the road. So I put this up on the road and the road is very quiet. My only concern is cars coming by, knocking into my tripod, but it's a quiet road. So you can get these opportunities to observe and make these videos without disturbing the bird too much. I do mostly photography, but when the opportunity is there, I'll try and leave the camera for a while to get a video shot.
Okay, Adrian. Okay, Adrian, that's, I think, end of the question time, right? Thank you very much. And Dr. Anwar, one question, that particular road from Gawi, the road for bird watching, what's the distance like?
The distance,
how many kilometers?
Okay, from Gawi, it's when you exit Gawi, you get back to the main road that cuts across. You've got to drive about 1 kilometer on that road before you reach the Sungai Buai Road, all right? Sungai Buai Recreational Road. So the Sungai Buai Recreational Road, it is 6 kilometers long, but the last 2 kilometers have already been blocked off with a gate, because what's at the end of the road is just a pump station for water. It used to be open all the way to the end, so now it's blocked. The first 2 kilometers are quite industrial in the sense that houseboats can load and unload passengers all along that road. But once you get up beyond the houseboat area, you'll see the forest comes in and it becomes a quiet road. So you could probably walk a good 3 kilometers up and back. And then when you get closer to the end of the road, it becomes very narrow. And if they don't cut back the scrub that's growing at the edge, you can barely fit your car through. So you have to walk a bit. So there's a good 3 kilometer chunk that I will do on a regular basis, which has some areas which are tight and some areas a little bit more open, but all paved.
And what would be the best month to go there? Is there a certain range of months?
Yeah, throughout the year is good because when the migrants are there, as long as it's not raining, it's good. So even in December, you know, you think of the East Coast and you think of constant rain, it's not really constant. There will be breaks in the rain. If you're planning a trip to the East Coast, you can't guarantee the weather. But if you live here, you can see that tomorrow is going to be a good day and you head out tomorrow type thing. So throughout the year is fine. Although this time of year is quite good because after the monsoon ends, February, March, we have the clearest weather. And it seems like the hornbills are very active, either with their young or they're starting to gather food for the nesting season, which usually begins around this time. So as I said, I found that fruiting fig tree, and we had 5 different species for the short time we were there in the morning, including the critically endangered helmeted. So there's lots of things to see.
Thank you so much. And we'll end on that note. Thank you, Dr. Anwar and Dr. Chan. And let me announce the winners for the quiz. But before that, I would like to draw your attention to something we are highlighting. So this is the Kololingi International Port. It's a reclamation of 620 acres. The big issue we have is that it's right at the mouth of the Lingi River. So you can see here the Lingi River coming through. We have Malacca down south and NS up north. So the Lingi River is flushing out into the so-called Port Dickson at the border of Port Dickson and also in the Malacca side as well. So this big reclamation, 620 acres, will definitely affect the nature in the area. We have the Tanjung Tuan historical, natural historical heritage. And then we have the Dutch fort is also an heritage. But in terms of wildlife, we have the turtles, the hawksbill turtles nesting area along the coast here. And then we have the painted terrapins along the river. And of course, they nest on the coast. All right, so, and of course, this is a crocodile sanctuary, and then we have mangroves. So would like to call your attention to all nature lovers. You can see it on our Facebook page, the MNS NS Malacca. We're gonna put this up soon. But we also have a Facebook for Friends of Sungai Lingi Rembau. So if you can search Friends of Sungai Lingi, you will find that we have all the information. This is at the EIA stage, where public is public is welcome to give your feedback. So if you want to conserve this area, please spend 2 minutes to feedback. It's very simple, just your name and then what is your comment regarding the project, and help to spread the message across to all nature lovers across Malaysia. So we want to have really, really huge response in terms of feeding back to this project, so that the Department of Environment can engage and see what is the public feeling like. Okay, so on that note, drum roll for the winners. Dang, 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 dang. Where is the winners? Okay, here. Okay, so we're gonna go to the app. And thank you, Dr. Anwar, for the prizes. So this is the app itself. So we have Liu Yok Mui, Liu Yok King. We have 3 people at 80%. Dr. Anwar, can we have one more prize?
Sure, sure.
All right, thank you so much. So we don't need to decide who came in first out of the 3. So otherwise, you know, maybe disappointing for them. So thank you for the prizes very much. Thank you very much. So we have the 4 winners there, and I'll get the details and send to you. So, okay. All Great. Right. Thank you again to our speakers, both doctors, and spending your time, and happy birthday to Dr. Chan. And thank you, our audience, to all our audience for on Facebook as well as on Zoom for interacting with us. And we look forward to seeing you again on the 3rd of April, where we're going to be talking about water birds. Very special edition, water bird identification. I think we've never done this before. So we look forward to that. And please keep your time free for this and spread the message on the event in Facebook. Thank you again to Drs. Anwar and Dr. Chan. And I look forward to seeing everybody again. All right. Thank you again. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Thanks to all our volunteers,
Bye-bye.
Adrian and Erica and Ziyan. Thank you so much. And the quiz master as well, Karina. Thank you. Bye-bye.